Alright guys, let's start with chapter number 1, scope and objectives of financial management. Scope and objectives of financial management. What according to you is the objectives of financial management, sir? What according to you first of all is a financial management? It's not a new topic, no. Finance management. We are finance students, so we know how to manage also. So what is it? Finance management means what are we essentially trying to do here? Okay, I'll give you a scenario. Okay, you let me know. We decided that we're going to start a coaching center. New coaching center. Not this. Not Arivu, some other new center. Okay, let's say we wanted to open a branch in Balaka place. What? Hosur. We will start a place, academy ka branch in Hosur. Okay. So now, should we have to do anything about financial management here? So what do you think we should worry about? Everything is there in either within these 4 walls. Think about these 4 walls and let me know. What I should worry about. First thing I should worry about. Building. Should I rent a building or should I buy off a building? That is one headache, correct? So can I categorize this as purchase of PP? What PPs should I purchase? We no more call it as fixed asset. We have become sophisticated now. We call them as property, plant and equipment. Yes, that is nothing but fixed asset. AS10 got revised, a new name is given, correct? So first I should worry about what fixed assets or PPE should I buy. That is my first headache, correct or no? Fixed asset for the academy could be what and all? What is there? Projector, iPads, correct? Furniture, where you're sitting and all. So how many chairs should I buy? How many tables should I buy? What cameras, projector, iPads, iPen, all these are my PPs, correct or no? So first I should worry about what are the assets required. Should I buy maybe 50 chairs or should I buy 500 chairs? 1 projector or 2 projectors or 3 projectors. That is first headache. Basically, from how many PPs do I require? Second headache will be how much will it cost? Correct? What will be my cost of PP? That is my second headache. Correct? Third one, I can run my academy only with fixed asset or I require other finance also. Do I require any cash for my day-to-day operation or just fixed asset is good enough? I should hire teachers. For teachers, I need to pay remuneration, correct? I should have a receptionist, admin guys. For them, I need to pay salary. Then I have what? Logistics, electricity, rent, blah, blah, and all this hospitality or housekeeping expenses. What are those? Cash required for day-to-day operation. That is my what? Third headache. Fourth headache will be what? From where I will get the money. Alright, I know what and all PP I require, how much will it cost, how much money I require for day-to-day operation. Fourth headache will be from where and all can I raise the money. How and all can I raise the money according to you? One proprietor can bring in his own capital, correct? So indirectly she's saying equity shares. For a company, for a proprietor, savings is the apt word, but for a company, they have to give equity shares. So one way of raising the finance is giving equity shares. If that doesn't work out, maybe you can roll out preference shares or you can give debentures or you can take a bank loan, correct? All these are long-term loans. You can also think about taking some short-term loans, correct? Working capital loans. So this is a fourth headache. So these are the stages which a new business has to go through. Did we get that? That only is your first table. What are the things? This is a pure memory game, first one. So we'll have to remember as much as possible and try to bring in the chart. What is the stages the business has to go through, we said? First is determination of which assets to buy, correct? And how much all that assets will require. The cost of those PP. Here, in bracket I can write here what? PPs. Here I can write what? Cost of those PPs and assets. Third stage is what? How much cash is required for my daily operations. Teachers ka salary and blah, 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 blah and all we told. Fourth one is what? What and all sources can I raise the money from? Are we okay? Every business will go through these 4 stages, they say. Got it? Not necessarily important for examination, but it is there. Are we okay with the first concept? Like this, each concept we will target. Good enough, no? Okay. With this, you can say FM ka objective is 2 things. Or FM is concerned about FM as in financial management is concerned with 2 things. Or okay, for the time being, you can say 2 things. What are those 2 things? Efficient procurement of funds. Yes, and efficient utilization of funds. How are the ways in which you can procure the funds, guys? Or what are the sources of finance? equity share capital, preference share capital, debentures, etc., etc. That is what finalizing which source should I raise the money. That is what effective procurement of funds. What is after procuring the funds? What will you do? You will utilization. So basically, FM ka objectives, or rather FM will deals with few things. One is effective acquisition and allocation of funds. Why do we do this? What is the intention of me buying this projector, tablets, and keeping the cash for day-to-day operation? What is it for me? From my academy's perspective, why am I doing all this? Why am I buying projectors? Why am I buying those chairs? Why am I hiring teachers? What is the objective of me? With the objective to increase the profit, with the object to maximize the profit, or in FM terminology we call it as with a view to maximize the wealth of the shareholders. Now can we construct a definition of FM? Yes. First one, what did we say? FM deals with effective procurements of funds, and it deals with effective utilization of funds with a view to maximize shareholders' wealth. Three key concepts there, that's all. Okay, once again, okay, got it. Effective procurement, effective utilization with a view to maximize the wealth of the shareholder. Profit objective is very vague, we'll see that later. Hence, our main objective is to maximize the wealth. So can we note down this? So FM deals with what we said? Effective utilization. I'll just write down here, you can just listen to it. Or effective, FM deals with effective procurements of funds, and effective utilization of funds with a view of what? Maximize the wealth of the shareholder. To maximize wealth of the shareholders. Can we go for the next one? All right. So what are the aspects of FM we saw? Procurements, funds, and effective utilization of funds to achieve the business objective. Now first one, we look at the procurement of funds. We already looked at this. First source of procurement of funds is what? Equity. Equity as in ESC. ESC means equity share capital. An organization has a choice to go for either equity shares or debentures. What do you think they should go for? Is there a right or wrong answer here? They require 10 lakh rupees. Alright, for their operations. They can either give equity shares or they can take debentures. Can you tell me some advantages of taking equity shares and some advantages of taking debentures? If you take equity shares, what is the advantage? Any advantages there? No repayment, correct or no? Because equity share capital, we call it as a permanent capital. You don't have to give the money back. That's all we say, no? Joint stock company. Men may come, men may go, but the company goes on for ever. Going concern? Yes or no? So going concern is effectively indicating this only. Once you take equity shares, is there any obligation to repay? No. If he wants, let him sell the shares in the share market or anything and let them, and he can get his money back. Yes or no? Does company have to give the money back? No. That is one advantage. You don't have to give the money back. 2. No obligation for periodic payment. Should you have to give dividend every month? Every year? No. So if you can decide when to. If you have profits, maybe you can give dividend. If you have no profits, no obligation to pay dividend. So that means there is no obligation to make the periodic payments. Correct? And any disadvantages is there? High cost. See, there is no obligation to repay the capital, nor is there any obligation to make periodic payments. So what is the expectation of shareholders now? Lower side or higher side? Equity shareholders are risk takers. Yes or no? You believe with me? There is a huge risk. So that means the more you take the risk, return will be lower or higher? Higher the risk, higher the return. So the cost of capital will be on the higher side. Are we okay? And 2, is dividend a charge against profit or appropriation of profit? What is the distinction? Charge meaning compulsory. Whether you have profits or not, you have to compulsorily pay. Yes or no? Like salary, electricity, rent. No matter whether you make profit or not, you have to pay. Is dividend like that? No. Dividend is what? An appropriation of profit. Correct or no? Can you deduct dividend for tax purpose? What is the order of P&L? PBIT, deduct. Interest you get PBT. Deduct tax you get PAT. Correct? All this we have done. and then you start with your appropriations. Yes or no? So is dividend deductible for tax purpose, or you cannot consider dividend for tax purpose? That means you don't get any tax shield or tax benefit on account of dividend. That could be one of the disadvantage. One, the cost is high. Another one is dividend is not, you don't get any tax benefit on account of dividend paid. Are we okay? Similarly, disadvantages of equity becomes advantages of debentures, and advantages of equity becomes disadvantages of debentures. We have another topic called source of finance. There we list out all of them one by one. So this is just an overview of the things. Are we okay? All right. So we discussed that procurement of funds could either be through equity shares or through debentures, or you can simply take a bank loan. Correct? All these advantages and disadvantages we'll look at in the next topic. After procuring the funds, what do you think? What are you going to do with this? Utilization of funds. You think from academies. We'll take the academy example only. We took the loan. We took the 10 lakh rupees. We wanted 10 lakh rupees, and we gave shares, and we raised how much money? 10 lakh. Next, what will I do? From academy's perspective, you tell. Forget about that. I started a new academy in Hosur. I got the 10 lakh rupees now. What am I going to do now? Huh? So a little louder. Sometimes my hearing comes and goes. One, you have to set aside some money for paying periodic rentals. All that, can I say, as day-to-day operations or day-to-day expense? We put a fancy name to that known as working capital management. All this will come under working capital management. Yes or no, guys? Correct? So one, I have to utilize, or I have to set aside some funds for working capital management purpose. Second, what will I do? I have to keep some money for utilize it, or what will I utilize it for? For buying fixed assets. So that's all we have listed out here. One, we'll utilize it to buy off fixed asset. Second one, we'll utilize it for the sake of working capital. I'll utilize the funds for two per se. One is for buying off my fixed asset or PPEs. Second one, it is kept aside for working capital management, or manage your day-to-day expenses. How much of it I should set aside for PPE? How much for working capital? Is there any magic formula? Out of 10 lakh, 9.9 lakh for fixed asset, 10,000 for working capital. Is there any magic formula like this? No, there is no magic formula. Basically, you'll acquire that much. Now, do you think, what is the capacity of this classroom? How much can I fit in? How much can I fit in? Not how much are there. How much can I fit in? Maybe 35, 40 possible. Correct or no? That means how much chair should I buy? 35, 40. Yes or no? So that means one part of it will go among my 10 lakh rupees. I have to buy how many chairs? 35 to 40. That much of money will be utilized to buy off the chairs. Is that okay? So basically what I'm trying to tell you here is, you have to have that much quantity of fixed asset that you can here it is there, so that you can operate at optimum level without endangering its financial insolvency. You should buy that much of fixed asset. They're saying that you can operate at optimum level without endangering the financial solvency. What does that mean? What does that mean, Liner, according to you? Basically, here I have the capacity to accommodate 35 students, but I buy only 5 chairs. I said, no, first batch only 5 will come. 30 came now. What will I do? Make them sit on the floor? It's okay. Old Gurukula system. Sit on the floor. Yeah, can I do that? No. So that means you have to have that much of fixed asset where you can produce at optimum capacity. Alright. So that it doesn't put you in any financial solvency. Because 35 students came. If I don't have the chair, what will they say? Academy, it seems. Chairs only they don't have. They'll go back. Yes or no? That means I'm creating what here? A financial insolvency. So you should have that much of fixed asset that you can operate at optimum level without endangering financial insolvency. You'll have to remember the keywords, guys. First chapter is all about remembering stuff. Is that okay? Next chapter is we'll do more of a number crunching. Okay? Theory, but if you can remember, easy 5 marks. This chapter carries a weightage of about 5 marks generally. First chapter. Alright. First is this. And how do you think we do this? Have you heard about this term capital budgeting? Have you heard about this term capital budgeting anywhere in your BCom or somewhere? So how much of fixed asset to procure? We use a technique known as capital budget technique. That particular technique gives you what? It basically assesses whether the fixed asset that you're buying gives you the desired return. By buying a fixed asset, will you get the desired return? What is my return here? From academy's perspective. Let's say I have I want to make a profit of 10%. Is that okay? So that means I should have what? in order to make that 10%, I should have, let's say, my break-even point. In order to make that 15% of profit, I want 25 students to attend my class. I did a simple calculation. If I want to achieve a profit of how much? 15%. How many students should attend my class, sir? 25. So that means how much of chairs and all should I have? So in order to fixed assets, you should have at least what? 25 chairs, at least one iPad, one projector, yes or no? Fair enough? This technique of assessing the desired return, we call it as capital budgeting. Whether by buying 25 chairs, will I get 15% return? That assessing that particular technique, we call it as what? Capital budgeting. So using this capital budgeting technique, we ascertain whether should we buy those fixed asset or how much of fixed asset should we buy. We have a separate chapter known as capital budgeting. We'll cover them in detail. All these are number driven, but I'm just giving you an overview. Is that okay? Okay, so let's recap. I know that a little bit of dry it is. Bear with me, because I want you to be thorough with all the theory concepts as well. Practical, I'm sure you'll get it because we'll do enough number of problems. But students do a mistake that theory, no, only 10 marks, no, we'll skip. Anyway, one choice question is there. Examination, they'll have very good friends like this. They will tell, choice no macha, leave it off. One theory question will come, leave it off in choice. But unfortunately, if that theory question comes in question number 1, what is question number 1? Compulsory question, Tirupati toss only. You will not be able to attend the paper for 60. You will be able to attend only for 50. There itself, psychologically, you are in a back foot. I don't want you to be in that. So we'll give equal emphasis to theory as well as practicals. Is that okay? No matter what. So I want you to memorize no matter here only in the class. That is the intention of the class. Are we okay? So let's have a quick recap of whatever we have done. Treat it as this question only will come in the examination. Okay. First, so what are the stages we said new business will go through? 4 stages we saw. One is it deals with how much or how many PPs or fixed assets we require. Second one, how much and all it will cost. Third stage is other than PP, I also require cash to manage my day-to-day operations. Fourth one, from which source can I raise the money? Because we have various sources available. 3 sources we looked at here. What are the 3 sources we saw? Equity share capital, debentures and a bank loan. Each source has an advantage as well as a disadvantage. Okay, how to choose, we'll look at it a little later. We'll do all the chapters, then you'll be able to get the gauge of it. So basically FM, we said, deals with 3 things or 3 keywords if you want to define FM. What are those? It deals with efficient procurement of, first you have to procure, efficient procurement of funds, and then efficient utilization or allocation of funds. Why are we doing this acquisition and allocation? To maximize the wealth or profit of the shareholders. Profit objective is vague, hence we use the term wealth for the purpose of wealth maximize for the shareholders. Yes, that's your FMCA definition. Next, procurement for funds, we saw that we can either take equity, debentures or bank loan. Utilization of funds, what did we see in the utilization of funds? It is utilized for 2 purposes. What is that 2 purposes? One, to buy off fixed assets. Now, what should we deal here? You have to buy that much of fixed asset so that you can operate at optimum level. The keyword there is optimum level. So it does not create any financial insolvency. Are we okay? Second one is what? And how do we ascertain this? Through a technique known as capital budgeting. And what does capital budgeting try to do? It is a technique which determines what? Whether your investment is worth it. By investing in fixed asset, will you get the desired rate of return? It's a simple technique of that. There are various techniques in capital budgeting which we'll take it up later. Don't have to worry too much about that. All these are different topics spread across. This is just an overview. Okay. All right. I'll use my funds only for fixed asset procurement or for one more purpose as well. Working capital management as well. Okay. So that means what? You should have that much money so that we can operate. Let's say to manage my academy, I require 50,000 rupees per month. To manage my academy, I require how much? 50,000 rupees for various purposes, for rent, teacher salary, receptionist salary, admin guys, whatever it is. Overall, how much I require? I'm assuming 50,000. That means how much money should be there in your bank every month? 50,000. Yes or no? Or somehow you should arrange how much every month? Whether you arrange it through cash or you arrange through debtors, creditors, doesn't matter. Somehow you should have how much? 50,000 so that you can manage. So basically we should have enough money or sufficient level of working capital. But at the same time, you should not block the funds also too much in working capital. Second word, we'll spend a minute on this. Finance manager must keep in mind the need of adequate working capital and ensure that the firm enjoys an optimum level of working capital, which in our sake we assume that's how much? 50,000 rupees per month. But they should also not keep too much funds blocked in inventory, book debts and cash. What does that mean, guys? They should not block too much funds in inventory, book debts and cash. Let's take the first concept only. What are they saying? Blocking too much funds in inventory. Let's say I am this pen dealer. I buy the pens and I sell the pens. That's my simple business. Okay. Let's say normally I sell about 100 pens per month. I sell on every month-on-month basis. How many pens I assume we'll sell? 100. Let's say in a particular month I bought out 300 pens. All right. Tell me the advantages and disadvantages of buying 300 pens. And normally my demand is how much? 100. But this month I procured how much? 300. Is there any advantage or any disadvantage? Any advantages there by having inventory more? Instead of storing 100 pens, I'm storing 300. That means that is a stock for me. So closing stock has increased from 100 to 300. Any advantages there, guys?
It might be that your purchase price might be reduced. You might get discount.
Perfect. One he's saying is, if I buy 100 pens, let's say it will cost me 1000 rupees per pen. If I buy 100 pens, the vendor will give me at what price? 1000. But if I buy 300, do you think I'll negotiate for 1000 only, or what will I tell him? Almost double I'm buying, no? Kindly reduce, yes or no? So let's say he told, okay, 950. I'll give you each pen at 950. Advantage or disadvantage? You got an advantage of discount. That is one. That's what he's saying. You may get some price advantage. Any other advantages there? Demand. Normally I used to store how many pens? 100. Some guy came to me and said, I want 250 pens. Now only, immediately, cash and carry. Will I be able to satisfy that demand? Normally I store how much? 100. That guy came, big shot, and he's asking for how many pens? 250. Can I satisfy him, or I have to let him go? I have to let him go. That means I'm not able to meet my demand. That's one of the advantages. If you have more inventory, you will be able to meet the demand also more. Some of the advantages of that. There are many advantages we'll see in working capital management. One is what? You can meet the demand. Two, you can get some price advantage. At the same time, do you have any disadvantages? See, if you buy 100 pen means how much money you would have required? 100 into 1000 is how much, guys? 1 lakh. Yes. Now you bought how many pens? 300. Let's say this is 900 rupees. That means how much money you require? 2.7 lakh. Correct or no? Earlier, if you had bought 100 pen means you would have blocked only 1 lakh rupees of cash. Now how much money is getting blocked? 2.7 lakh rupees. Yes or no? What if you don't sell that pen? What if technology changed? Nobody is buying this version of iPen. New technology came in. That means they'll buy what? Old version or new version? That means I'm taking a huge inventory risk, technology risk, obsolescence risk here. If it's a perishable commodity, I'm taking that perish wala risk. Otherwise, I'm taking a technology risk. Advantage or disadvantage? That is what they're saying here. Determine the optimum level of your working capital management, but at the same time, don't block too much funds in inventory. Working capital, how do you get working capital, guys? We have done all this. Working capital is nothing but current assets minus current liability. That's what they're saying here. Don't block too much money in current assets and current liability as well. Optimum level you have to determine. There are some techniques, we'll see it in working capital management wala topic. Easy so far. I can understand that it is not so good to learn all this, a little boring and stuff, but examination wise, golden questions. 5 straight marks you will get if you can remember. So hence, I'm all for this topic. Like we're doing practical topic, we'll be emphasizing the same, or we'll be doing the same in a similar manner. We'll also be doing the theory one as well. Okay, bear with me a little there. Okay, evolution, it's okay, it's irrelevant in a way. Now, finance management, or rather I would say there are 3 decision making involved in FM. There are 3 types of decision making which a finance manager has to go through. First type of decision making you'll have to go through is the investment decision. Second one is the financing decision. Third one is dividend decision. All right, financing, investing, dividend, FID. These are the 3 decisions he has to go through: financing decision, investing decision, as well as dividend decision. We'll take up the first one. What do you think he'll do in financing decision? Financing decision means what according to you? Financing decision means what? We told FM deals only with three things. What are those three things? Effective procurement for funds, effective utilization of funds with an objective of maximizing shareholders' wealth. Take that into mind and tell me, what does financing decision involve according to you? First thing is determining, from our financing decision will deal with how much money we require and how much money we should raise from what source. Whether to go for equity share capital or preference share capital, debentures, bank loan, working capital loan, or what. Is that okay? That's what we are trying to do in financing decision. Basically, we are trying to determine how much should be our finance. In our example I took, we require how much money? 10 lakh. Like that, every manager should determine what is the optimum level of finance a particular company would require. 10 lakh, 10 crore, 100 crore, or whatever it is. Alright. And also, he should have the sound knowledge of three things. In financing decision, one, we will determine whatever we know we'll write off, then we'll tally. What does financing decision will involve? First, it'll deal with what? How much finance we require. That we call it as what? Optimum level of finance. Second one, what source of finance? Do you agree that each source of finance will have a different risk, a different return? Yes. So at this stage, source of finance, you should have a sound knowledge of risk, should keep these three factors when determining the source of finance. They say, what are these three factors? Risk, control, and cost. First, we'll take up the first one, or the easy one, which is what? Cost. What does cost mean, guys? What does cost mean? Source of finance, cost. That means what? Cost incurred to get the finance. Like, you have taken a bank loan. What will be the cost? Let's say you took a bank loan at 10% per annum. So what is the cost here? 10% interest that you're paying to the banker. Yes or no? So first factor that you will keep in mind for deciding the source of finance is your cost. Is that okay? Second one is what? Or here, what are they saying? Risk. What is the risk here? What is the risk here? If you take a bank loan, every month you have to repay the installment. Yes or no? Principal plus interest you have to repay. Or what are the terms you agreed on? You could have agreed on, maybe you agreed monthly payments, quarterly payments, or yearly payments. Let's, for simplicity, we'll take it as monthly repayments. That means every month, whether you make a profit or you make a loss, to the banker you have to give installment. Same source of finance. Let's say we took from equity shares. 10 lakh rupees money we required. We took a bank loan. That means every month you have to pay interest and installment. Same 10 lakh I raised from equity shares. Now what? Is my risk high now or lower? Lower, because I don't have to pay that periodic payment. Yes or no? If I make profit, then only I'll give him the dividend. That is your second factor, risk. Risk here refers to risk of periodic payments. Okay, sir. Following or too much? Following. What's the third factor? Control. What is the control here?
Obtaining bank loan will not affect the control of money.
Perfect. If you give equity shares, equity shareholders are known as what for the business? Owners of the business. Yes or no? But bank people, if you take a bank loan, are they owners? That means if you have to take equity shares, if you have to raise the finance through equity shares, you have to give ownership of the company. If you give ownership, indirectly you are also giving what? The control of the business. Yes or no? But if you are taking the bank loan, are you giving control? Will the bank people come tomorrow and say, no, don't do this business? Or they'll be only interested in getting their money back? Yes. That means what is here? From control perspective, what is preferred? A bank loan or equity share capital? If you want to retain the control, then probably you will go for a bank loan. If you don't mind giving away some control, then probably you will go for a equity share capital. So that means the finance manager should decide the source of finance based on the risk, cost, as well as the control. Are we okay, sir? And one more thing you should keep in mind is your hedging. One more thing you should keep in mind at the financing decision is hedging. What does the hedging mean, sir? You remember AS 11? You remember Accounting Standard 11? All of you have attended both the groups, no? Now what does AS 11 indicate? What is AS 11 first of all? I know it is accounts, but still, they try to relate. Same faculty, no? One advantage, yeah? What does AS 11 mean at least? Name. Effect of foreign currency transaction. Yes or no? Forex. New guys may not know it. There, did we do something known as forward contract? Did we do anything known as forward contract, sir? Spot rate, forward rate, we did or no? Forgotten, huh? Don't ask. That was long back. Okay. Like, let's take a simple example. Let's say a shopkeeper, he buys and he deals with vegetables. That's his line of business. He buys the vegetable in wholesale and he sells them to the retail customers. Okay. Now, shopkeeper, should he take any insurance on the inventory, sir? Should he take any inventory? Should he take any insurance policy? If you have an insurance or if you have a building, let's say, will you insure it or will you keep it as it is? Insurance. That is known as hedging. Are we okay? If you have any goods which are perishable, you should also be aware of the hedging, as well as hedging in simple terms we can call it as, or type of insurance is your hedging, covering your risk basically. One way to cover the risk is to take the insurance policy. If suppose you are exposed to foreign exchange risk, then you will take probably a forward contract to cover that risk or hedge the risk. Hedging is nothing but covering your risk. So you should have a sound knowledge of these three things. What are those three things we could say, summarize it as? One, he should have a sound knowledge as to how much money we require, from what and all source can we raise the finance, from what source we raise the finance will be dependent on the cost control as well as the risk that because each source will have same of those or will have different risk, different control. They'll have different components. So you'll have to keep that in mind and accordingly come to a common sense which source of finance should we take. Also, you should have a sound knowledge of the hedging elements. Basically, how to cover the risk. The one of the way to cover the risk is either by taking an insurance policy or by taking probably a forward contract as such. Can you remember this much? Yes. So financing decision will deal with all this. What is the first thing given here? Three decisions we saw. What are those three decisions, guys? One is financing decision, investing decision, dividend decision. What is the second one here we can take up? Investment decisions. Where and all do you think you will invest? We already saw this. One portion will be used for procurement of fixed assets. A second portion or another portion will be used for working capital management. Can you give me a recap? How much portion will be used for fixed asset and how much for working capital? Basically, we should have that much of fixed asset that we can operate at optimum level without endangering financial or without creating any financial insolvency. And this is done through capital budget wala technique. And capital budgeting is a simple process to determine whether your investment is worth it, or by investing will you get the desired rate of return. That is the same points you can write for this. Are we okay? What is the second pointer? Second classification or utilization of funds is what? Towards working capital management. That means you should have what we should do under working capital management? We should maintain optimum level of working capital management. At the same time, we should also not block our funds too much in inventory, book dates or cash. Fair enough? Basically, we're trying to keep them at optimum level. Okay, guys. Okay, third decision is what we said. Dividend decisions. Can you tell me what does finance manager do here? Or CFO do here in dividend decisions? From a company's perspective, what do you think is a dividend decision headache? Perfect. One headache is how much dividend to give and how frequently. Should we pay the dividend every 6 months, once in 6 years, or once in 2 years? How much dividend to give and how frequently? That is first headache. Second one, at the same time, how much funds we should also retain in the business for the purpose of further growth. Is that okay? So that's all we have to be concerned in dividend decision making. What can we write here, guys? We'll make the chart again, but just to test your memory. Dividend decision deals with what? How much to pay and how frequently. 1 and 2. How much to retain for the purpose of for future growth. We have various models for dividend decisions as well, which we'll take it up a little later as well. Can we go for the next concept? What is the next concept? Tasks of financial management. How to remember? STOBS. Stops. These are the tasks of financial management. What does the first S stands for? Setting the sales revenue that you will be able to deliver, that will deliver you the growth. T for tax planning, so that you minimize the tax. O for ensuring that you don't over invest in fixed assets. Are you able to connect? Is that okay? Too much? Able to remember, guys? Or no? Simple form is it just stops. First S for what? Setting the sales revenue. Obviously, like if you want to grow in future, you have to achieve a certain amount of sales. Yes or no? So you have to achieve a certain level of sales target which will fund your growth. That is the first task of financial management. Setting the sales revenue. T is what? Tax planning. Because if you plan the tax, you can also minimize the tax. Yeah, various tax planning strategies. No, tax must have been already covered for you. Various exemptions you can play around with so that you can minimize the tax. O is what? Taking care not to over invest in fixed assets. What will happen if you over invest in fixed assets? I require one iPad, but I bought 5 iPads. What will happen? Unnecessary funds will get blocked. Yes or no? You could have utilized that for some other purpose and earned a better return. That is the third task we have written there. Taking care not to over invest in your fixed asset. B is for what? Balancing the cash inflows with cash outflows. In our example academy, say I told how much was working capital management for me? Required is 50,000. Correct or no? Let's assume my inflow is 70,000. My cash inflow is how much? 70,000. But my cash outflow is, let's say, 30,000. Inflow is 70. Outflow is how much, guys? 30. That means what is my monthly revenue or receipt? How much remains? 40. How much I require? 50,000. That means I have to arrange how much here? 10,000. This act is known as balancing the cash inflows with outflows. Is that okay? How much of inflows should I generate and at what month? How much of outflows should I pay and at what month? This is a balancing act of cash inflows with outflows. Last S is for what? Last S is for what, guys? Here it is there. What is that? Where did it go? No. Ensuring sufficient level of short-term working capital. Okay, these are the tasks of financial management. It has been asked for 3 marks or 2 marks before. Tasks of financial management. Easy way to remember is nothing but STOBS. STOBS. S for setting the sales target so that you can deliver the growth. T for tax planning in order to minimize the tax. O for avoiding the over investment in fixed asset. B for balancing the cash inflows with outflows. Last S is for ensuring we have sufficient amount of the working capital or short-term working capital. These are the tasks of financial management. If you write this, that is good enough. These 5 pointers. Okay. Need a minute or move on? If you want to write down anything, you can write down. Later on, we'll make a chart for this. Can we go for the next one? Guys? Alright. Objectives of financial management. There are 2 primary objectives of financial management. One is profit maximization. Another one is wealth maximization. So we'll have to spend, again, this question has been asked quite frequently. Profit maximization versus wealth maximization. So this is in fact, you could say this is the highlight of this chapter. It's been tested quite a few times. You got to remember them. Okay. Earlier, the emphasis was not on the wealth, but it was on the profit. Everybody thought, okay, if you are able to generate this much profit, go ahead and do it. By buying fixed asset, if you feel you're going to achieve the profit target, or by keeping enough cash as day-to-day working capital management, if you are able to achieve the profit target, they said, go ahead and do that activity. Everything was related with profit. If you achieve the profit, go ahead. If you're not achieving the profit, don't do that. Neglect that decision. Don't take it, they say. But here they say, they've just modified that or brought in a new concept. They say, profit maximization no doubt is a good objective, but if at all you emphasize profit too much, if you give too much importance to profit, you will face certain problems. That we can summarize it as NTRV. If you give too much of emphasis on profit, you will face a problem known as what? NTRV. What is N? Profit is too narrow. First one is profit as an objective is too narrow. You think. Everything is there, guys. In the chart, we'll bring it in. No worries. Okay. N stands for narrow. Profit is way too narrow. Why are we saying it is narrow? Is profit is concerned with the shareholder, yes or no? Or the owner of a business. Correct? Will you consider employee ka interest? For profit maximization, will you keep employee ka interest in mind? Consumer ka interest in mind? Society ka interest in mind? Will you bother, or are you more interested in how much money owner will get? Yes, that is why we say profit maximization objective overall it is very narrow or short-minded. Because if you don't satisfy your employees, will they work longer for you or they leave you? If they leave, what will happen to your future profits? Will it be same or will it reduce? It'll reduce. But if you emphasize too much on profit, what will you do? Make them work more, pay them less salary. Will you keep that work-life balance or work-life balance will be gone? The work-life balance will be gone means will the employees stay longer with you? Will they be satisfied? No. How about consumer? Consumer, let's say, expects a warranty of 2 years. You are selling a product, he expects a warranty of how many years? 2 years. But if you give more warranty means you have to undertake more repair cost. You have to do the repairs at free of cost or replacement at free of cost. Yes or no? So if your objective is profit, what will you do? Reduce the warranty period. Correct? So what will happen? You will have a bunch of dissatisfied consumers. So will you be able to sustain like this? No. Hence we say profit as a definition is way too narrow. So this way you can't grow. If you keep on emphasizing the profit, you'll never be able to grow much. That is the first disadvantage of overemphasizing the profit. Narrow. Are we okay? Second is what? T. What is that T? Here it is there. It does not consider the time value of money concept. Is having 1 rupee today same as having 1 rupee 1 year down the line? Yeah, 100 rupees today. Or you'll get 100 rupees 1 year down the line. Is it same or it is a world of difference? World of difference is there. Yes or no? If you have 100 rupees now, you can always make an investment and that 100 you can make it as probably 110. Possible. So profit objective ignores what concept? The time value of money concept. Because you are only interested in with every year ka profit. You're not much interested in when are you getting that profit, and considering the time value money concept is ignored for profit. That is the second disadvantage. That covers your T. Yes or no, guys? Third one is what? R. Third R is for what? Profit my objective ignores. It does not consider the risk factor is what they are saying. Yes? Can I elaborate this a little bit? How it ignores the risk? Let's say you want to take project X, project Y. You have 2 projects to choose, X as well as you can either take project X or you'll take Y. Let's say project X gives you a profit of 10 lakh rupees. Project Y gives you 9.9 lakh rupees. Which one will you choose? Which one will you choose? Just profit. From profit maximization perspective, what will you choose, guys? You will choose X. X, yes or no? What if X has a lot of regulations? If you want to do project X, you have to take approval from a whole lot of people. Alright, that means in a way I'm saying what? Project X is more risky. Project Y, hardly there is any approval. You can go ahead and start the business, no problem at all. Now what do you think? What will you start? Now what will you choose? Probably why? Because if it is way too regulations, will you be able to keep up with it? No. So that means when you're considering profit maximization as a sole objective, you will ignore the other factors. But profit should always be assessed with the risk that you take. Is that okay? What if the company does not want to take that much of risk? Then will they go for project X or project Y? So profit should always be assessed with risk. With overall, if your overall emphasis is profit, risk as a factor get ignored. That is your fourth factor, NTR. Last one is what? V. V as in profit. The term profit is vague. It could mean different for different people. One person could, when I say profit, he could say it is profit before tax. One could take profit after tax. One could take EBITDA. Have you heard about EBITDA? Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. Profit could mean different to different people. Each person could take different factor and do their own analysis. One guy could take quarterly profit. Another guy could take yearly profit. So hence we say profit again as an objective is little vague. These are your problematic areas if you overemphasize on the profits. This question has been asked in your recent RTP May 2020 as well, and it has come quite a few times as well. Is that okay? If at all they question profit versus wealth maximization, you'll have to call out these points. Okay guys, able to remember? I know a little tough, but are you able to keep up? Okay, so what are the disadvantages we saw? NTRV. What is N? Profit as an objective is way too narrow. Why is it narrow? Because we ignore the interest of the consumers, employees, society as a whole. Hence we say profit as an objective is narrow. 2. Second one is what? T. T stands for time value of money concept. Profit as a factor does not consider the time value money concept. R is for profits should always be assessed with the risk. Otherwise individually profit does not make any sense. Okay. V. We as in vague. What is that? Why are we calling it as vague? Because profit could mean different for different people. There are various profits. You can take PBT, PAT, 6 months profit, 1 year profit. You can use anything for your decision making. Hence we say that is literally vague as such. Okay. I'll just give you a minute, go through that and try to remember. Or take about 5 minutes, just have a recap of everything we have done so far on your own. Alright? I want you to be done with this topic. Intention is by the time I am done with chapter 1, you should also be done with your revision of chapter 1. Okay, hence, otherwise I could have just spent only half an hour for this. It would have been easier. I would have just given you the chart and said, go through it yourself. That is just half an hour definition, but you will never do that at your home. Then this chapter you will never revise. I don't want that. Every chapter we want you to revise in the class itself and be done with it. Okay, no matter how interesting or boring it is, we are getting it done. Okay, go through it once. What are the two objectives of financial management we saw? One was in the profit maximization, but second one is much better, which is what? Wealth or value maximization. How does wealth or value maximization works? One, it does not bother much about the accounting profit. The emphasis here is on the cash profit or cash flow statement. Meaning, let's say you purchase the goods in the month of March for 10 lakh rupees. March 1st, you purchased the goods for 10 lakh rupees. By the end of March, you sold these goods for 13 lakh rupees. Is that okay? No other expense, no other income, let's assume. You made a purchase for 10 lakh, you sold the goods for 13 lakh. What does your accounting record say? You made a profit of, book profit of how much? 3 lakh. Is that okay? 1st March you purchased, by 10th March you sold off. Good enough, sir? But however, you made the sales with 90 days ka credit. That means what? That means what? You may have sold the goods on 10th March, but did you recover that 13 lakh rupees now, or you will recover only after 90 days? Under wealth maximization approach, we are not bothered about this 3 lakh. We are interested in the cash inflows and cash outflows. Our emphasis more on the cash profit than on the accounting profit. Is it okay? Why the emphasis on this is, for 90 days you will not recover the money. Yes or no? Can you tell your employees, I'll pay the salary only after 90 days? Can you tell the landlord, I'll pay the rent after the 90 days? Electricity board, 90 days after that I'll pay the rent. Can you say that? That means you're getting the book may you're saying you have done an amazing profit of 3 lakh rupees. But do you have that 3 lakh rupees with you? Do you have this 13 lakh rupees with you? That means how do you manage the funds for 90 days? For 90 days you don't have money, but you have to pay salary, you have to pay rent, etc., etc. How do you manage that? Hence, under wealth maximization approach, the emphasis is not on the accounting profit, but the emphasis is on the cash flow statement. How much cash you have recovered? Are we okay? Yes, sir. Second objection is, here we take up any project by doing one analysis known as cost versus benefit analysis. Do you know what is cost benefit analysis? By doing a project, how much benefit you will get versus how much cost is incurred. Let's say by doing a particular project, you earn 13 lakh rupees, but the cost of that project is, let's say, 3 lakh rupees. Do we have any benefit by doing that project? How much totally we're going to get? We'll recover 13 lakh. How much you have to spend for that? 10 lakh. That means what is your net benefit? 3 lakh. This is known as cost benefit analysis. A particular project, what is the net revenue for you as well as the net cost? Compare revenue with your cost. Only if the positive number is, if the resulting number is positive, then only take up a particular project. Is that okay? That's what you've done in your NPV analysis and all you must have done in your BCom. Net present value. This is that cost benefit analysis. What is one factor which profit objective ignored? The time value of money concept. But here the emphasis is always on the time value of money, because we are interested in when we'll recover the cash. Okay, and we'll apply the time value money concept, and then only we'll determine the wealth. In order to get the wealth of a particular business, how do you get that? Present value of benefits. What does the term present value here mean? To the benefits we apply discount, DF. What is DF? Discount factor. Time value ka discount factor we have, apply that. Again, to the cost you apply. We're not interested when the cash outflow will happen. We are interested in its present value. We apply the discount factor and find out its present value. If the net number is a positive number, we call that as a wealth. So we apply the time value of money concept, and then only we'll dig out the wealth. These are the points you need to keep in mind for wealth maximization. So what are those points? Can you summarize with me? And how do you get the wealth basically? present value of benefits minus present value of the cost. And here the emphasis is not on the accounting profit but on the cash flow or cash flow statement. Is that okay? We work that as a basis. 2. We do some analysis. What is that analysis known as? CVP, cost benefit analysis. And we do that analysis keeping in what in mind? The time value of money into mind. We apply a discount factor and then only we consider that. Okay, fair enough. And then we dig out the wealth. They also say value of a firm is nothing but value of equity plus value of debt. Leave this for the time being. We have problems, we'll take care of that at that point of time. Now we look at profit versus wealth maximization ka advantages and disadvantage. First advantage of profit objective is easy to calculate. If you do P&L account, you'll easily get the profit. Yes or no? So that means easy to compute. And 2 is it is easy to link profit with a decision. Like if I get the profit, I will do this. I'll make an investment in PPE provided my profit hits 15%. Like this, it is easy to link profit with decision. These are some advantages of profit objective maximization or profit maximization ka objective. Is there any disadvantage, guys? You already saw this. What are the disadvantage? We don't have to write. NTRV. What is N? It is narrow. It ignores time value of money. It ignores the risk factor. As such, it is vague. And you could also consider that as a N. If you want, you can bring in one more, that is S. It is short term in. Emphasis under profit maximization is short term in nature. Emphasis on wealth management is on the long term in nature. Basically, advantages of profit maximization becomes disadvantages of wealth maximization. Disadvantages of profit maximization becomes advantages of wealth. Kindly remember this. This has been asked quite a few times. All right. Just a small concept, so that we'll be done with theory and then we can straight away start with problems. Okay, right? Next, we have something known as, again, a question which is often tested. Role of finance executive. Generally comes for 2 marks as such. Role of CFO or something. How to remember it? Short form is BIMORPH. Okay? Remember so that some way we have to remember, no? Just giving the short forms to her. B is for, one role of a finance executive is budgeting. I for overseeing the IT function. Overseeing the IT function of a business. M for managing mergers and acquisition. O for overseeing the overseeing the outsourcing something. Decision about outsourcing. And we call it as O. Whether to do in-house or to outsource. That is your O. R as in risk management. P as in pricing analysis, setting the price. H as in overseeing the HR functions. I've given you about 6 functions. Generally, they give it for 2 to 3 marks. So just remember it that way. Okay. B as in budgeting. I for overseeing the IT function. Then M as in managing the mergers, and all these are self-explanatory. Should I have to spend any minute on this? What are those? Or are you able to relate it with the term? Able to relate with the term? M for managing mergers and acquisition. O is decision about outsourcing, whether to do it in-house or to outsource. R for risk management. P for pricing analysis. H for overseeing the HR functions. These are the role of a CFO or the finance manager, you could say, finance executive. Short form is nothing but BIMORPH. We'll bring it to the chart again, but you can write down there nonetheless. Can I go for the next one? Okay, next small concept is financial distress and insolvency. Financial distress and insolvency. Financial distress is a simple position where inflows are not sufficient to pay off the outflows. Where how much money you are getting is not sufficient to pay off the outflows. Like academy's perspective. What do you give the academy? The fees. You may give it in a month-on-month basis or in one shot. Yes or no? Let's say you're being given EMI option. It means every month you're going to pay some money. Let's say you pay 10,000. But the expenditure required is 30,000. How much money is required for day-to-day management? 30. But the inflow is only 10. So if it goes on for a considerable amount of time, we call that as a financial distress. Because how do you pay off 30 with only inflow of 10? Correct or no? That situation we call it as a financial distress. If it just goes on for a long duration, we call it as, it leads into something known as the insolvency. That is nothing but insolvency. Are we okay? Insolvency is a case where we are not able to repay our debt due to financial distress. Our inflows are not sufficient to pay off the debt on a long run basis. Hence, it has resulted into something known as the insolvency. Again, one or two marks on one line may you just have to remember. 2 to 3 points is good enough. Are you able to make sense out of it, guys? Yes, they're saying only 2 audits. Others are wondering, oh, yo, too much theory. No problem. Whether you like it or not, we have to. Because 5 marks is a huge in CA. 5 marks is a differentiator. By 1 or 2 marks, people fail. So 5 marks is still a great margin. Okay? And 5 easy marks. Just for like spending maybe 1 hour with just, I know that little difficult to remember, but if you are able to remember, easy 5 marks. And within like hardly how much, like suppose they ask this for 2 marks, how much time do you think you are required to answer this? Hardly a minute. 1 minute meant 2 marks, but if you give you a big problem, you will spend half an hour for 10 marks. Now tell me which is worth it, theory or practical? Theory is your make or break paper because it effectively manages the time. Because with practical problem, it's very difficult to tell the time. One step you get stuck means you'll be keep on revolving. But it's not the case with theory. Either you know or you don't know, or you'll write some goalie and move on. Correct or no? So that way I always emphasize on the theory because I believe theory is something which will definitely make you clear the examination much more easily. Because practical, you never know. There is no limitation. One book can have 70 problems. But that doesn't mean can we do 70 problem here in the class? We have a practical limit. We can only go up to maybe 25 or 30. What if they change the pattern and ask some new problem this attempt, in your attempt? But theory, that does not happen much. Hence, kindly, I know that little difficult, but we'll have to bear. Only 2 topics as such also. And 2 topics, if they ask 2 questions, means straight away 10 marks. Out of 60, 20% of you already covered within 2 days. Is that okay? That doesn't mean tomorrow we'll do that. I'll split. First we'll do a few practical numbers, get acquainted, then we'll do another theory. Today one theory is good enough. Okay, everyone? Alright, next one. Next concept is known as what? Agency problem and agency cost. Let's read the things little later. Let's just understand in our own words. Corporate, a company. Who manages the business? Shareholders, owners or board of directors? Who manage corporate affairs? Owners or board of directors? Board of directors, because there will be lakhs and lakhs of owners. If tomorrow they decide that I will manage and all the 10 lakh people come to office, means gone only, yes or no? So the management of a company is with the board of directors, or simple term, can I call board of director as a manager? Is that okay? That means there exists a principal agent relationship between owners and board of directors. You agree with me? Owners are there so that it will benefit, board of directors are there so that it will benefit the owners. Yes or no? That means who is the principal here? The owner. Who is a broker or agent? The board of directors. Yes or no? Agent should always work towards whose goal? Principal goal or his goal? Principal ka goal. Yes or no? What if board of directors decided to run the business for their own benefits? There is in the agreement they say like higher the profit, higher their salary. More salary they will get. That's what they've negotiated. That means how they'll run now. If I make more profit, no matter whether it is beneficial to the company or not, I will get more salary. Yes or no? So that means they're keeping whose interest in mind and working? Owners ka or their own personal interest? If they keep personal interest in mind, if they take business decision, that problem is a problem or not here? Yes, that means they'll resort to window dressing, hasty decisions, yes or no? That problem we call it as what? Agency wala problem. If the interest of the board of directors or interest of manager does not align with interest of owners, we call that as a situation where we call it as an agency problem. Are we okay? To sort out that problem, what do you think we have to incur? Agency cost. So agency cost is basically incurred to sort out agency problem. So basically agency cost is a cost incurred by the owners to control and manage the behavior of the manager. Agency cost is a cost incurred by the owner to control and manage the control the manager and to control their behavior. Basically to manage them we incur a certain cost. Have you heard about audit committee and all? You could treat that as an example of agency cost, because audit committee is nothing but a link or intermediary between the board of directors, or you could say shareholders and board of directors. Yes or no? or generally we say it's an link between auditors and board of directors, somewhere in between. So obviously will non-executive director, have you heard about non-executive directors, correct? Law is done or not done? Okay, leave it. Okay, so that is one example of agency cost. Those of you who know, it's fine. Let's not go in there for the time being. So how do you think we can sort out agency problem? Agency problem, when will it come? When in simple terms, when the interest of the manager does not align or is not the same as interest of the owners. Yes or no? Correct? This will lead to something known as agency problem. Correct? To mitigate that, we incur something known as agency cost. But what are the actions we could take to mitigate agency problem? Two actions we could take. One is what? Here when we say owner, here owner does not refers to shareholder. Here owner refers to providers of capital. Who and all can provide funds? Bank people, debenture holders, preference shareholders, equity shareholders. All of them are considered as owners for this purpose. Okay. So how do you sort out this agency problem? One is by imposing something known as negative covenants. By imposing something known as negative covenants. What is this? Is in simple terms borrowing restriction. Like bank people might say, you already taken money from me, don't take any more loan. Because now directors may say, if I have more funds, I can achieve more profit. And they may go on resorting to taking off more and more funds. But at the same time, more the fund means more the risk. Yes or no? So what if they are like, don't repay? What if they are not in a position to repay that loan? Who's at a loss there? Bank people. So one restriction, this creates an agency problem. Yes or no? What is the interest of bank? Do the business, but at the same time, don't put me into too much of risk. What is a board of director or manager saying? I want more funds so that I can generate more profit so that my salary is more. So one way we can sort out this problem is bank people might tell the manager, don't take funds more than 1 crore. Borrowing restriction. That borrowing restriction, we use the term as negative covenants. Covenants in simple terms meaning restrictions. Basically, one way they can sort out is impose a negative covenants or borrowing restriction. This way we'll sort out the whose interest. We can align the interest of whom? The lender as well as the manager. Similarly, you can also align the interest of the owner with manager. How can we do that? Instead of giving him monthly salary, easily you can tell your salary is based on my objective. Maximize my wealth and you will get this much salary. Basically, you can link the compensation with the objective of the shareholders. So this way you can sort out that. Because if both the people's objective is same means, will you have agency problem? No. So that is one way you can do that. Link their compensation or remuneration with the objectives of the shareholders. One objective could be to maximize the return. Second objective could be to do this much of social CSR, have you heard? Corporate social responsibility activities. That could also be one of the objective. To spend 5% in the current quarter or current year. That could be one of the objective. So if at all you generate money that you are able to do CSR spend, then only directors will get their compensation. Basically linking the objective of this company with the compensation. This way you can sort out that agency problem. Able to relate? Let's sum it up. Again being asked. So what is agency problem according to you? When will it arise? First point. Who is a manager there here? Board of directors is nothing but there exists what relationship? Or maybe we'll start with that. There exists a principal and agent relationship between two guys. What are those? Owners and, or rather you could say providers of finance and the board of directors or managers. Yes or no? Board of directors should work in whose favor or in whose interest they should keep in mind and do the decisions? Owners. But if they keep their own interest into mind and do the decision, then one problem will arise. That problem is known as agency problem. Or to put it precisely, if the interest of the manager is not the same as interest of the lenders or providers of funds, that problem we call it as agency problem. Are we okay? Now, to sort out this, owners have to incur certain cost. That is known as a agency cost. So it is incurred basically to control and manage the behavior of the managers. Or what are the actions you could take to sort out this? By imposing negative covenants or by bringing certain restriction in the borrowings. What will first one sort out? It will sort out the agency problem of who and all? Lenders, providers of debts with the managers. Second, how do you sort out the providers of finance like equity shareholders with managers? By linking their compensation with the objectives of the business or objective of the shareholders. If you link this, I'm sure both of them will work towards the same goal. and agency problem can be sorted out. That is a small concept known as agency problem and agency cost. All that theory is just about that. Is it okay? All right. The last theory concept for this chapter and probably for the day. Can we take that up? Interrelationship. We know that there are 3 decisions a finance manager has to go through. What is that we said? Financing decision, investing decision, dividend decision. Are those 3 linked, sir? Do we have any interrelationship between them? Can you tell in own words, irrespective of what is written, how they are linked? Perfectly. If you want to make an investment, you require certain source of finance. All right. Source of finance could be various. We said, what are the source of finance? Equity, debt. Can RE as in retained earnings be a source of finance? Can retained earnings be a source of finance? I required 10 lakh for a particular project. Last year I made a profit of 15 lakh. I require how much for a project? 10 lakh. Last year how much profit did I make? 15 lakh. I don't want to do any external borrowing. I want to use this only for this project. I want to utilize that 15 lakh for this project. Can I? What is this? Profit for the previous year or years retained in the business, which we call it as retained earnings. Yes or no? Correct, no guys? So that means if you utilize this 15 lakh for this project, can you pay dividend out of this? That means it affects your dividend decision. Correct or no? So that means all these 3 are interlinked in that way. And all those 3 are objective. Why are you doing all this? Financing, investing, dividend decision. With an objective to maximize wealth. All the 3 ka primary objective is to maximize wealth. That means they are connected in that regard. Okay, those 2 points if you are able to write, that's good enough. Alright. Okay, let's have a quick summary. And then we will take a break. Now you can give me the summary. Alright. First, what are the stages a new business? You need a minute or can we start? Start. What are the stages a particular new business has to go through? 1. How much of fixed assets and other assets they require. And 2. How much cost it will be required to buy all of those fixed assets, either to buy rent or lease or whatever. Alright. Third one. We not only require cash for PP, but also we require for cash for day-to-day operations. Fourth one. From where and all should I raise the money? Either for my fixed assets or for my day-to-day operations. Those are the 4 stages of business a particular new venture will go through. Are we okay? From this we can summarize that FM will deals with 3, or what is the definition of financial management according to you? It's a managerial activity which deals with 2 things. What are those 2 things? Effective procurement of funds and effective utilization of funds with the primary objective of maximizing the wealth of the shareholders. Are we okay? All right. So procurement of funds, we'll take it later, or maybe here only. First, or 2 aspects of financial management is to deal with procurement of funds and effective utilization of funds. When you're concerned with procurement of funds, what are the things you'll keep in mind? Basically, procurement of funds will deal with source of funds. So what are the things managers should keep in mind before he thinks what source to take the money from? 1, he should have a sound knowledge of source of finance, what and all or from where and all he can raise the money. And he should have a sound knowledge of risk, cost, control, because each source of finance will have a different risk, a different control aspect, and as well as a different cost. And also he should keep in mind something known as hedging. Hedging means to cover your risk, basically. Some instruments to cover your risk could be your insurance policy or your forward contracts. Keeping those in mind, you take a call as to what are the source of finance I should raise the money from. Second one will deal with utilization of funds. What are the things you'll utilize the funds for? 2 things. 1 is either to buy off a fixed assets or PPs or for your working capital management. So what should be your optimum fixed assets, or how do you decide? Basically, you should have that amount of fixed assets that you can operate at an optimum level, which does not create any financial insolvency. All right. And how do you do this? Through what technique? Through a technique known as capital budgeting, or capital budgeting itself. Okay. What does capital budgeting mean in layman terms? It's a technique which determines what? Whether your investment is worth it, or whether your investment gives the desired rate of return. All right. Next, working capital management. What do you think about working capital management? You should have we should have working capital at an optimum level. At the same time, you should not block too much funds in your inventory, in your current assets, basically. All right. That is that. And next, we looked at decisions in detail. What are the three decisions? Finance decision, investment decision, as well as dividend decision. Finance decisions we already went through. Correct. You have to keep in mind the source of finance and sound knowledge in the hedging instruments. Correct. How about investment? Investment also we go through. Investments will be done either in fixed assets or working capital management. Keeping those point into base, we kind of keep finalize on that. Last one is what? Dividend decision. Dividend decision deals with what? How much dividend to pay and how frequently, so that shareholders are also happy. At the same time, how much should we retain so that it will fund our growth, because you can't go on taking equity shares or taking on loan. Some funds you should use it internally also. So that is your second objective. Next, what are the tasks of financial management? I said STOBS. STOBS. First S for setting the sales revenue targets that will fund your growth. Then T is for tax planning so as to minimize your outflow of tax. O is for you ensure that you don't over invest in your fixed assets. B is balancing the inflows with the outflows of cash. Last S is for keeping the sufficient working capital base. These are the tasks of financial management. 5 pointers. Okay. Next, there are two objectives of financial management. One is profit maximization. Another one is wealth maximization. All right. Traditionally, emphasis was given on profit maximization. Every decision was taken keeping profit into mind. But if you emphasize too much on the profit, you will encounter certain problems. You might get into some problems. That we can categorize as NTRV. N as in profit as a term is way too narrow, because it doesn't consider the interest of the consumers, employees, society, etc., etc. So if you ignore their interest, you can't sustain long enough. You will eventually shut down. And second is what? T. It ignores the time value of money concept. R is for risk factor. It ignores the risk factor. Profit should always be assessed with the risk you are taking. But if you only concentrate on the profit, you might ignore the risk. And last one is vague. Profit as a term is vague because it could mean different to different people. All right. So wealth maximization. What does wealth maximization consider? One, it doesn't emphasize much on the accounting profit. It considers the cash flow. All right. And we do this analysis known as cash cost versus benefit analysis. And we do this analysis keeping what in mind? The time value of money concept. So in a nutshell, wealth is nothing but present value of benefits minus present value of the cost. All right. We also say value of the firm is nothing but value of equity shares, value of equity plus value of debt. Little later on this. Next, role of a finance executive, we call it as BIMORPH. BIMORPH, short form or elongated version is B for budgeting. He has to oversee the budgeting functions. I for overseeing the IT functions, and M for managing mergers and acquisition. O for planning or thinking about the outsourcing decisions. All right. R for risk management. P for pricing analysis. H for overseeing the HR functions. These are the tasks of a finance executive or a CFO. Last, or rather, financial distress. What is financial distress? Where the inflow is not sufficient to meet the obligations or the outflows of cash. Is that okay? That term we call it as a financial distress. If it goes for a long period of time, if that cycle goes on, then it'll create into something known as an insolvency, wherein you're not able to repay your debts due to the financial distress. That's a small funda there. Then we saw something known as agency problem and agency cost. So manager is basically there exists a principal agent relationship between a manager and the owners or providers of finance. All right. And the manager should act in the interest of the providers of funds. But if they keep personal interest in mind, then we create something problem known as the agency problem. To sort out that, we incur certain cost, which is known as the agency cost. Basically, that is incurred to control the behavior or to manage the managers, basically. All right. And what are the action plan to sort out agency problem? One, you could impose negative covenants, meaning you can impose borrowing restriction. That will sort out debt lenders wala problem. How about equity lenders wala problem? How do you sort out that? by linking their compensation straight away with the objective of the shareholders. So if you link that, you can sort out that. And three decisions are anyway interlinked because financing decision is dependent on investment decision. Investment decision is in turn dependent on the dividend decisions, because we just saw in the example, yes or no? And all the three objectives are primarily to maximize the wealth of the shareholders. That way they're all interconnected. Okay, so we'll do off a chart and take a break, or we'll do a break and then take a chart? Then do a chart. What do you want to do? Break? Chart, we'll do it? Is it okay? Okay. Break and chart, sir. Okay, fine. We'll take a break, small break and resume.